Hey, what's up? Ken from Palm Beach Dyno here. We've got an awesome episode for you. I'm driving the Bronco to the shop. It's a Sunday. I'm gonna get caught up on a bunch of stuff. Martin is here installing his twin turbo Hellion kit on his Mustang GT. We've got a very special guest dropping off his vehicle for a big package. I never would have guessed this guy would be dropping off here. I've known him for a really long time. He does a lot of the work on his car himself, but he really loves our new packages, and he's dropping off today. We'll go over that. Also, we're doing a very new special fuel system in his vehicle. I forgot about that. We'll show you some of that. But we're also gonna do Godzilla stuff. So let's catch up on what Jeremy got accomplished on our 7.3 liter Godzilla swap, and then we'll go over that in more detail in just a little bit. I got the Turbosmart blow-off valve for the Bronco, and I'm going to go ahead and get this installed, and then we'll take it out on the road and show you what it sounds like. What do you guys think? I really like the way it sounds. I did test the same setup by using the stock unit and then venting this to atmosphere, but it was extremely loud and obnoxious, which we don't want on a Bronco. I don't really want that on any car, but especially this one. So it has this small port, but it's still circulating some air back through, and I think it's just about perfect. Now, is this just for sound? Well, that's one of the reasons, but it also has a stronger spring in there, should hold boost better. We will be testing that in a future video on our 0 to 60 draggy testing. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and head over to the shop and look at the new updates to the 7.3 Godzilla setup. Jeremy, like I showed you earlier, got it rolling. We still have a lot to do. I wanna go over with you what the plan is and what parts we have on the way. I'm really excited. We're working with a lot of great companies, and we'll be showing you that as stuff arrives. But let's go ahead and look at what we've got right now. Come on, guys, let's go. These are my assistants. All right, here she is. We do not have shocks yet. Now, some of you guys may recognize these wheels. I'll give you just a second to guess. All right, here you go. Not only the wheels, but the entire rear end is out of our car dead spool. Are we just totally gonna destroy dead spool to get this thing running? Sorta, but only because we're gonna make dead spool better. This is headed to AC Carcraft next week, hopefully. They're gonna be doing an all-new 9-inch rear end, a 25.3 update, all kinds of updates. I got a carbon roof, all kinds of carbon upgrades. We're gonna probably redo this just a little bit up here. This was like a last minute fix because my old intercooler got messed up. We even have Dead Spool's wheels on the front. So what do we got going on so far? We've got the full BMR K-member setup on here. We've got some strange brakes. Those are strange struts which are not staying on there. That's just to get this thing rolling. I'm gonna go ahead and take the steering rack off of Dead Spool also, and then that way we can get this thing fully rolling. The transmission, well, let's talk about the engine first, which is right here. Now, one thing to remember when you're doing the Godzilla swap is you have to consider things like the oil pan. That's one of the bigger ones. Probably in a truck you're fine, but on a Mustang this is not really going to work unless you want the engine really high, which of course you do not want. So there's a couple ways to go about this. Somebody does make a fabricated oil pan replacement and you still run the factory oil pump and everything else is pretty much the same. That's the most economical way. I am going to go with the Indy Power Products setup, which I'll show you right here in the pictures. That stuff will be on the way soon. It's a whole new replacement setup for the front. It's got a billet front cover replacement, a different water pump, a setup to mount the alternator. You can mount power steering on it. I'm not going to be doing power steering on this. And what it does is it replaces the oil pump that's in here that sits kind of low. It puts it up higher and then puts a different oil pickup tube on it and a new pan. It's all billet. It's super trick. It's not the cheapest setup in the world, but I really, you know, like my stuff a certain way, I guess I'd say. So that's what we're going with. So that's what we're doing on the engine. Now, what are we putting right here? A transmission, right? All right, so we're going with TIC Performance. Now, TIC is at the leading edge of stick shift racing. Jonathan Atkins is out of there, and then also they do Joel Steele's car, which is the fastest stick shift H pattern car in the world. I'm not sure who else they do, a lot of people. So I'm working with them. Now, we're not gonna get super fancy to start because I don't wanna overcomplicate this for you guys and make it an all-out race car, but it is gonna get there pretty quick. So we're going with a standard Magnum T56 XL, and then eventually as we make more power it will go back to TIC for all the really trick updates, and we'll tell you exactly what that is. I have a lot of history in stick shift racing and face-plated transmissions and all that, but I just wanted to start with a standard synchronized transmission. Once we get that in, you know, we saved ourselves a ton of time by using Dead Spool's rear end, and this should be okay. We certainly are going to have to change the gear in this. This is a 273 gear. We're going to probably need something pretty steep for this setup. We went with a 266 first gear in the Magnum. So once we get that done, then we'll measure for the drive shaft, and that will kind of finish up the underside of it. But there's way more to go after that. You know, I'm starting with a shell here, so you know it all adds up very quickly. When you're doing a swap like this, there's lots of things to consider, and one of the things to consider is the engine management, which I have showed you guys. I'm going with the OBR control pack, which I believe is right over here. Actually, this is a new wiring harness. I showed you guys the wiring harness in the last Godzilla update, but this is a new one because I had bought that stuff such a long time ago that they did some updates, and OBR saw my video and reached out, and I've got the new version of the harness, which I'll show you right here. So this is super nice stuff, guys. I mean, look at all this. This will all plug right into their computer. Everything's labeled. You know, that's ignition 7, ignition, or excuse me. There you go, yeah, see? Ignition 7, and then injector 7, ignition 3, everything's here. Alternator control. It does control the factory oil pump, but we are not gonna be using that. It also does control the factory cam. Because of the setup we're going with the oil pump, I think we're gonna lock the camshaft out. But the nice thing is this can control everything 100% bone stock. So I guess I just let the cat out of the bag. We are not putting this in 100% bone stock because the oil pump changeover and setup requires a locked out cam. The variable cam in this thing does not really provide any benefits performance wise. In fact, the camshaft in this engine is not very good for performance. We are going to use it and lock it out to start with, but it won't be very long before we switch over to Willis Performance ported heads and a Willis Performance spec camshaft with that locked out. I do have variable cam timing still in my truck. If you guys don't know about that, we have a 7.3 liter F250 that we've also shown on the channel, and that already has the Willis heads and cam, but we kept variable cam timing on there because it is a truck. We were wondering if it would be beneficial. I'm not so sure it is, so we're still going to be able to figure that out as we move along with projects just like this, and this is why we do them. Fuel system, I want to talk about fuel system. There's all sorts of fuel system options. We have our own fuel system coming out for the GT500. If you guys didn't know, we do a lot of GT500s here. 1, 2, there's a GT500 over there, there's a GT500 over there, there's another 3 of them over in the other bay, and one is getting dropped off today. As I mentioned earlier in the video, he should be here any moment, so I'll show you that car as soon as it shows up. But what are we doing for fuel system? I'm doing the Aeromotive fuel cell with the fuel pump already ready to go, brushless setup. It's a variable speed deal. I went with the 5 gallon per minute setup. They go all the way up to 10 gallons per minute if you want to get super crazy, but the 5 gallon should work fine for us. One other thing I forgot to mention, which really should kind of go hand in hand somewhat with the ECU, is what are you going to do about power, right? So a vehicle like this has a fuse box. Obviously, it has all its own wiring, body control module, etc. But do we really want to keep that on a vehicle like this? If you're starting with a full street vehicle and you want to convert it to the Godzilla engine, then maybe you do want to keep all that. That might be the easier route. We are headed long term. When I say long term, who knows? Could be a couple months, probably a year or so, to a fully built setup, race car, cage, stick shift, outlaw stick shift class, drag racing. So the best way to do that is with aftermarket race wiring, and there's all sorts of ways to go about that. There's very nice relay boxes and fuse panels and all that, but the bleeding edge of performance today is a thing called a PDM or PDU, or there's all different acronyms for them, but what it really amounts to is a replacement for relays and fuses. It's more than just that. It also supports CAN, so it's intelligent. Now, that's the other nice thing about going with the OBR setup. It has full CAN support. I just got the full CAN list of all the supported parameters that it's broadcasting. We can use the PDM to monitor those. So if something happens with the engine, we could do something with the power, say cut a boost controller, all sorts of things. And we can also feed that same data to a dash, which we're going to put an AIM dash that I happen to have in this vehicle. Anyway, I think somebody just pulled up. Let's go out and see who it is. Boom. Thought he got the sticker. What's up? What are you doing here?
Looking for Palm Beach Dyno?
That's us.
I mean, you're taking over the whole place.
I know. I need more room, dude. And you can just park it next to the building and unload it right there.
Okay. Cool.
Need me to watch anything?
On the other side, maybe? Kelly just dropped off his car. We're gonna go ahead and
stored in the back. We have so many GT500s up here. He's going in deep storage just for a day or two. No, I'm just kidding. We got to move some stuff around. So Kelly, tell us what we're doing to the car here.
So really, the day I bought this, I decided that I wasn't going to get into doing all the modded supercharger stuff because I had seen the results and the intake temps and stuff. So I said, I'm just going to do a Whipple on this one. So I bought the car and bought the Whipple literally at the same time. And the reason really is because I do a lot of like racing, like back-to-back racing and roll racing, and just I beat on the car a lot. And I really wanted to
just go like a little bit, like see how that's just kind of go around that a little bit. It's just yeah. Now go back right. There was just a big dip right there. I didn't want to mess up your splitter.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So I just wanted to shoot straight for big power with efficient cooling, and then I saw you start testing your CX1300 packages, and you've beat the shit out of them. Where's it?
It's 108 right here.
All right, cool.
This is Palm Beach Motorsport, sister company to Palm Beach Dyno. We're gonna, put it in here for tonight.
But yeah, so after your results, I was really convinced. And then Jared, you know, he's pushing his real hard, trapping like 160, and you know, Jared was telling me that his intake temps are only like 120 degrees. It was just a normal system.
Good. That's good, as long as you can get your door open. Yeah, you're set. All right, let's go over this fuel system. This is most of the parts here. All centers around this hat. Now, this is how the hat comes, but this is not how it's going to go in your car. Unfortunately, they sell it only one way, and then you have to modify it.
You have the cat here, right?
Yeah, that's
like
this
a block
piece is a block. Yeah, see. Now, this is cool for somebody, and we're going to sell it this way probably. We're going to come up with a bunch of fuel systems, but I'm starting with the most complicated, most expensive one possible, and we'll work our way backwards. This would be good for mimicking how the stock system works as far as being a returnless setup, but it allows you to change the pumps and everything. We're going to get rid of that, and then these type fittings will go here instead of a factory type fitting, and there's another one for that side for the return. But the cool thing about that, this whole setup is this is what makes running this possible. And as you can see, this doesn't even look like a new box. You know why? Because you can't even buy this. This is prototype beta super secret squirrel shit. This is the injector dynamics setup. It comes with all the connectors you need and things like that. But
let me see the pump. What?
The pump's right.
Shit, is that the controller?
This is the pump.
So this is the single pump?
This is the single pump. That's what's in my red car, which my red car doesn't make crazy power, but it makes like 1400 to the wheels, but it'll support 2000 horsepower. Now, here's one thing to make super clear. You can look at this pump. It's a TI automotive pump with the part number. If you buy this pump and you don't have this, I bet you this only supports like 700-800. Yeah, it's not anything like you would imagine. The magic of this setup is this right here. This is the Injector Dynamics brushless pump controller. It's been in beta for years. I have one of these in my red car. I have another customer testing one that's running right now. It's Twin Turbo Coyote. And then Kelly's getting this set up here. And we are going to be able to supply these for people that want this system. I don't expect it to go in high volume due to the cost of this setup, but it's definitely the trickiest setup. And we can't have all these super badass parts without this right here. This is your fuel filter. Have you ever seen one of these?
No, not in person. I've seen pictures.
Here, you can work it. So
this is the indicator?
Yeah, so this is a delta P indicator. Okay. So as this starts moving more to the left, while it's running, of course, that means you have more of a restriction in your system. But there's other cool features about this. Here, why don't you videotape me? Sorry. So first off, the filter element. Yeah, it's there. You're good.
Oh, okay.
So all you do, now you can mount this any way you want. We are going to try our best to mount it mostly like this. We're very limited in room on the GT500. But here's the cool part. It's got this nice little CNC deal here, and there's your fuel filter.
Oh, that's amazing.
So obviously if you have it in this orientation, as you pull it off, this will catch any fuel, but I'm not 100% sure how we're going to be able to mount it. The other really cool part that shows they were really thinking, let's see if I have it here. I don't know if I have the part here. Crap. Yeah, here it is. So let me open it up. So those of you that like to drain fuel or swap fuels, so right here is the Schrader valve, and you pull that off and people know what that is. It looks sort of like a tire filler, but this is the cool part. I believe they make this fitting themselves. So this screws into the Schrader valve. If you can see down in there, if not, I'll get a better picture of it later and put it over top. It's got an O-ring in it, and it's got the pin to pierce the Schrader valve. So as you put this on, it's never gonna leak. So you just hook up a hose to this, unscrew that, screw this in, and then you can turn your pump on and drain your fuel pump. So that's pretty awesome. One other thing, and this is tied into Palm Beach Motorsport. This is not it. This is a new line of fittings and lines and fittings that we're carrying. Speedflow, it's an Australian company. And these fittings are super nice. I've had less than good luck with a lot of fittings that are out there today. Oftentimes they don't seal well, they're not made well. I mean, it's unbelievable how much they leak right out of the deal. This is top-notch stuff. I don't have the right fittings here to show you some of the other advantages of it. I'll put them up over the screen. But like on a 90, you normally get a real thin piece of metal there.
Crimped.
Yeah, exactly. It gets really small. So like a Dash 8's really small. The Speedflow fittings maintain the same size the whole way through.
So it's almost like a mandrel bend.
Yeah.
But it's small on a fitting.
Yeah,
so
and I wish I had the fittings here to show you. But here's the other really cool thing is what they offer is, so now keep in mind, these are professionally crimped setups. So this goes on, then this goes in there, and then it takes a special machine for us to crimp this. So this is the best possible way you can do it. This is aramid hose. I mean, it is incredibly light, and the really cool thing is look at the bends you can get with it.
Bend radius is impressive.
It's insane. Partly it's because it's such a lightweight setup, and this exterior is really high-tech material. So I'll put some information up about that. I don't want to pretend I know everything about it yet. But the other really cool thing is these fittings, like normally on a crimped fitting, you have to, with a straight one, of course not, but let's say it was a 90, you have to have the clocking correct. So when you crimp it, you can't move it. Whereas like a normal AN fitting may have a swivel at the top. Speedflow now has swivel crimped fittings. So you could crimp it, but it'll still swivel at the top. Everybody else's crimp fittings don't do that. So like when you have to make a hose, let's say, you know, you have to have a certain orientation and you have a 90 this way and a 90 this way, and you have to decide how that 90 is clocked. You don't have to do that anymore because it's got swivel fittings. So basically, this is the best of everything that you could possibly do on a fuel system for these setups, and it's in the tank. Even my own setup, which I run that fuel filter, I run this pump on my red car, that's all in a fuel cell setup. So this is a new setup from Radium. The other really cool thing is, I don't want to take that apart right now, but inside there, it has an AN fitting, and I was like, well, how the heck am I gonna, how does that work with this? This has a really cool setup that sandwiches on top of this. I'm not going to do it right now. You put the other piece on, it has an O-ring, and it puts an AN fitting on there, and there's a check valve built right into this.
Into the fitting?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
It's right in there.
That's impressive.
You know, of course, check valves do cause flow restrictions, so we'll have to test it, you know, both ways, but I have a feeling it will have no problem with that. So now, this is going to be available from Palm Beach Dyno for the GT500, and then we're going to have a similar setup for the Mustang GT, but it's going to be a little bit, because right now, I was going to do it on my car, but we'll do it on Kelly's car. All this has to get installed, and we're not going to use this hose to start with. We'll use regular hose with regular fittings from the same company, but normal assembled ones, to make sure we have every hose 100% right Then we'll remove all those hoses and make all the proper lengths and everything. And then we'll have to do that for every application that we support. Now, you will have to mount the fuel regulator where we tell you and the fuel filter where we tell you, but I got a great news there. We're gonna be including all the brackets in printed carbon fiber, bolt-on, stainless bolts, everything. No decisions have to be made by you. We thought about everything, where the regulator goes, where the fuel filter goes, how it all lays out. On a GT500, even though, are you gonna run your strut tower brace?
I might not.
Yeah,
I mean, it just depends.
You know,
but...
like on my car's gotten so far off the deep end, it's just worth the extra few pounds to leave it off. So on my car, it doesn't matter. But we are designing this thing for the everyday guy. It'll be the baddest system, but if you want to run the strut tower brakes or any individual component on the car, you don't have to modify it. And this is going to bolt on with the stock blower or the Whipple. Of course, with the Whipple, you'll use the Whipple fuel rails. If not, we will have a set of fuel rails that go with the Mustang GT and all the other applications that we're going to support. So anyway, I think that's about it on this setup. I'm really excited about it. Like, I've always loved this setup in my red car, but the one thing was really having to run a fuel cell. So for Radium to come out with this setup for this pump is just amazing, and it fits up in there perfectly. One other real important thing to point out that I totally forgot is the fact that this is an enclosed fuel hat. Every other fuel hat on the market is an open fuel hat, and guess why that's not good? Well, we're drag racing these cars, and we leave under extreme G-forces, and in my own car currently, I cannot run under half a tank of fuel. I'm cutting high 1.3s on a regular. I went a 1.32 or 1.33 once, and I think I could go 1.2s. When that happens, all the fuel rushes to the back of the tank, and you go lean. And you may not even know it. The car may be lazy, and you know we have to catch that in the log. With this setup, this whole system is going to fill with fuel. So if the outside fuel rushes away, now if it rushes away for a long period of time, you have an issue, but it's only an instantaneous launch problem. It keeps the fuel around this. So while we are releasing this hat with this setup as our high-end fuel system, we are probably going to do a more traditional dual pump setup for lower powered cars that want to be able to utilize the fuel, this fuel hat that has the basket with it, which is super important, especially when you're trying to run your best ET, because fuel weighs so much. So now, instead of running, say 8 gallons of fuel in it, you could probably get away with running 3 or 4. 4 gallons of fuel is, Kelly? I don't know, like 25, 30 pounds, something 30,
like that? Probably 28 to 32 pounds.
Yeah, somewhere in there. So right there's a 30-pound weight savings with no investment. You just have to run less fuel. Right. You just can't do that right now.
So I ran just to cut in, I ran that Radium hat in my 2020 that you guys tuned. And it was a stick car, cutting 1/460 foots. And I mean, the last time I was at the track, I think it said I had 22 miles to E with the 85 in the tank. So I mean, it worked for me. I never had issues in the logs with leaning out or cutting out or anything. Yeah, so
this has been on my radar for a while. The only reason I haven't really used it yet is because everybody wants to go to the triple pump setup, and because of the way this is configured, I'm pretty sure you can only get 2 normal pumps in here. That's why this has solved the problem and why I'm 100% behind this. But I think there are a lot of people that will want dual pump setups, so we will release that. But this is going to be the star of the show. All right, guys, I'm going to cut this video short. We just went on really long. There's just so much going on. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. There's going to be a ton more on Kelly's CX1300R. We already built Ryan's. We'll be taking that to the track soon. The Godzilla project, the Bronco. We also have our 2022 GT500 Copart project. We're going to get started on that again real soon. So make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.